An alien prince fell in love with a human hacker. In the swirling depths of the Andromeda Nexus, where starlight bent around quantum singularities and civilizations rose and fell with the passing of cosmic winds, the royal fleet of Zenthoria cut through the darkness like luminescent arrows. Their ships, organic metallic hybrids that pulsed with bioluminescent veins, traveled in perfect geometric formation, a diamond constellation of military precision that had remained unchanged. For 12,000 cycles, Prince Xallax Vendoru, first heir to the Zenthoria Collective and supreme commander of the 7th Nebula Forces, stood motionless on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Convergence. His iridescent scales caught the light of passing stars, shifting from deep sapphire to emerald as he breathed, an autonomic function he found increasingly distracting. The prince's forearms remained perfectly still at his sides, the mark of royal composure. Only the subtle twitch of his tertiary breathing gills betrayed his agitation. Status report on the primitive communication signals. Sub-Commander, he said, his voice a harmonic blend of tones that rippled through the air. Sub-Commander Vrax bowed, her cranial ridges flashing a respectful purple. The signal continues to emanate from the third planet of this unremarkable yellow star, your luminescence. Our analysis indicates it contains mathematical sequences far beyond the expected capabilities of a species at their developmental stage. Curious, Xallax said, allowing himself the smallest head tilt, a shocking display of emotion by Zenthorian standards. And the ancestral archives have no record of advanced civilizations in this sector? None, your luminescence. The carbon-based bipeds of this world have barely achieved rudimentary space travel. They still use combustion propulsion. The sub-commander's voice carried the harmonic pattern that indicated statistical certainty, 99.97% probability of accuracy. The prince moved to the holographic display, causing ripples of movement among his bridge crew. Zenthorians did not walk without purpose. Motion itself was considered a resource to be conserved. Show me the origin point of the signal. The display shifted to reveal a blue-green planet, then zoomed to a landmass, then further to a sprawling settlement of primitive angular structures, finally focusing on a small dwelling unit on the outskirts. The signal's trajectory pulsed, from this point, extending outward past their own star system, directly targeted at the Zenthorian Empire, an impossibility given the species' technological limitations. Prepare a stealth reconnaissance unit, the prince commanded. I will lead the investigation personally. A collective harmonic gasp escaped the bridge crew, a serious breach of protocol. The first royal heir never engaged in field operations. It violated 13 separate sections of the Imperial Conduct Codex. Your luminescence, Chief Advisor Zorn interjected, his elder scales dulled with age to a matte gray. The High Imperative clearly states, I am aware of the High Imperative, Chief Advisor, Prince Xallax interrupted, committing yet another protocol violation. But this signal, it speaks directly to me. There is something unexpected here. The prince turned away from his stunned advisors, his gaze fixed on the image of the small dwelling. For the first time in his 172 cycles of existence, he felt something the Zenthorian educational programming had never prepared him for. Curiosity. 8,000 miles below and utterly unaware of the alien armada in orbit, Maya Chen slouched in her ergonomic gaming chair, surrounded by the soft blue glow of 6 monitors. The small apartment smelled of cold coffee and microwave ramen. Discarded energy drink cans formed a precarious aluminum mountain beside her desk, a monument to 3 days without sleep. Come on, she muttered, fingers dancing across her mechanical keyboard. The clicking sounds formed a staccato rhythm against the low hum of cooling fans. Just one more firewall and we're in. Maya wasn't supposed to be hacking into the quantum encryption array at the National Aerospace Research Center. In fact, as a former employee who'd been ceremoniously fired for ethical divergences, her term, or reckless security violations, their term, she was probably breaking several federal laws. But when you discover that your former employers are hiding something that appears to be non-terrestrial signal patterns, certain ethical flexibility becomes necessary. Gotcha. She pumped her fist as the final security protocol collapsed under her custom algorithm. Now let's see what you're hiding. The monitors filled with streaming data, coordinates, frequency patterns, and signal strength readings. Maya's eyes widened as she processed what she was seeing. The government wasn't just receiving a signal from deep space. They were actively blocking it from reaching its intended destination. They're running interference, she whispered. But why block an alien signal unless... Her fingers flew over the keyboard again, this time crafting a counter-algorithm. If the government could block the signal, she could unblock it, or better yet, redirect it. She didn't know what the signal contained, but the encryption patterns were unlike anything she'd ever seen. Beautiful, really. Almost musical. Why not say hello? Maya grinned, initiating her program. On her screen, the redirected signal pattern pulsed outward, now flowing freely along its original trajectory. Let's see who's calling. She leaned back in her chair, reached for a lukewarm energy drink, and wondered idly if first contact with an alien civilization would look good on her spectacularly spotty resume. 3 days later, Maya was still monitoring the signal, now supplemented with her own mathematical sequence, a modified Fibonacci series that no intelligent species could mistake for random noise. She'd added prime numbers, the value of pi, and for a touch of human personality, the baseline from Another One Bites the Dust. If aliens had any musical taste, they'd appreciate Queen. The soft ping of her proximity alert barely registered before her apartment door exploded inward in a flash of blinding light. Maya dove for cover, knocking over her tower of energy drink cans. Through the smoke and debris, she glimpsed tall, shimmering figures entering her apartment with the synchronized movement of professional soldiers. Seriously? She coughed, shielding her eyes. The feds could have just knocked. But as the smoke cleared, Maya realized these weren't federal agents. The 4 figures standing in her ruined living room were tall, at least 7 feet, with bodies covered in iridescent, scales that shifted colors like oil on water. Their forearms held devices that definitely weren't standard government issue, and their faces, well, faces wasn't quite the right word. They had angular features dominated by large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the room in fractured perspectives. "Oh," Maya said simply. "You're not from the government, are you?" The tallest of the aliens stepped forward, its scales shifting to a deep royal blue. When it spoke, the sound was like overlapping harmonies played on glass instruments. "We are representatives of the Zenthorian Empire. You have transmitted a signal into protected space using mathematical sequences restricted to Class 9 civilizations or higher." The alien's mouth didn't move in sync with the words. Some kind of translation technology, Maya guessed. "Identify yourself and explain this violation immediately." Maya slowly stood, raising her hands in what she hoped was a universal gesture of non-aggression. "I'm Maya Chen, human, hacker, currently unemployed." She attempted a smile. "And I have absolutely no idea what a Class 9 civilization is, but I'm pretty sure we're not one." The alien's eyes shifted, facets realigning like a kaleidoscope. "Impossible. The signal contained quantum encryption algorithms beyond your species. Evolutionary capacity." "Yeah, about that." Maya scratched her head. "I didn't create the original signal, I just unblocked it. Someone else was preventing it from reaching its destination." She paused. "Which I'm guessing was you guys." The aliens conferred in harmonics too complex for Maya to follow. Their scales rippled with color patterns. Some kind of non-verbal communication, she realized. Finally, the leader turned back to her. "You will accompany us for further questioning. The integrity of the Zenthorian collective has potentially been compromised." "Whoa, hold on." Maya backed up against her desk. "I have rights. I'm not going anywhere without a lawyer, and definitely not off-planet without, I don't know, a spacesuit or something." The leader's scales flushed a deep crimson. "This is not a request, Primitive. The signal you intercepted contains royal genetic sequences. This is a matter of imperial security." Before Maya could protest further, a wave of tingling energy washed over her, and her apartment dissolved around her. Her last thought before consciousness slipped away was that she'd forgotten to feed her neighbor's cat. Prince Xallax observed the unconscious human female floating in the containment field. Such a fragile-looking creature, soft skin without protective scaling, only 2 functional arms, and a complete lack of gill structures for secondary atmosphere processing. The medical scans showed an absurdly inefficient respiratory system and a skeleton that would shatter under even moderate Zenthorian gravity. How had such a vulnerable species survived long enough to develop signal technology? "Is this truly the source of the signal breach, your luminescence?" Sub-Commander Vrek asked, her tone carrying the harmonic pattern of disbelief. "The evidence is conclusive," Xallax replied, circling the containment field. "This being somehow intercepted the royal genetic beacon and redirected it with modifications. The real question is how a primitive species obtained our quantum technology." The human's eyes fluttered open, and Xallax felt an unusual disruption in his secondary cardiovascular system, a flutter that Zenthorian medical texts would classify as a rhythmic stress response. The prince dismissed it as a reaction to the unusual situation. Maya blinked against the bright light, trying to orient herself. She was floating in some kind of energy bubble in what looked like the interior of a spaceship, all organic curves and pulsing lights, nothing like the angular human design she was familiar with. Beyond the bubble stood the aliens from her apartment, plus a new one. This one was different, taller with scales that shimmered with deeper colors and what looked like delicate filaments extending from its head crest. "Hi," she managed weakly. "I don't suppose there's any chance this is just a weird dream from too much caffeine?" The elegant alien stepped closer to her containment field. "I am Prince Xallax Vendoru, first heir to the Zenthorian collective. You have interfered with a royal genetic beacon, an act that carries the penalty of molecular dissolution under imperial law." "Molecular dissolution sounds unpleasant," Maya said, trying to keep her voice steady. "But in my defense, I didn't know it was royal alien genetic. Whatever. I thought I was just unblocking a cool space signal." "Unblocking?" The prince's head tilted slightly. "Explain this term." Maya explained about discovering the government's interference with the signal and her countermeasures to let it continue on its original path. As she spoke, she noticed the prince's scales shifting through colors she couldn't name, patterns forming and dissolving across his surface. "You're saying another faction on your planet was deliberately preventing our beacon from reaching its destination?" The prince's voice carried new harmonics, concern perhaps. "For what purpose?" "I don't know," Maya admitted. "Government types tend to shoot first and ask questions never when it comes to potential alien contact. They probably thought they were protecting Earth." The prince turned to his subordinates and they engaged in that musical language again. Maya tried to follow it, her brain automatically searching for patterns, as it did with code. There was structure there, mathematical progressions in the tonal shifts. Finally, the prince addressed her again. "Your explanation presents a problem. If your government detected and blocked our signal, they possess technology far beyond what our scans indicate for your species. This suggests outside interference." "Outside interference?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "You mean like other aliens?" "It would appear so," the prince said, "and that makes you either an unwitting pawn or a valuable witness." He made a gesture, and the containment field dissolved, leaving Maya to drop unceremoniously to the floor. "Ow!" she protested, rubbing her backside. "A little warning next time?" The prince's head crest filaments rippled in what might have been confusion. "You wish to be informed before gravity affects you?" Maya started, then sighed. "Never mind. So, am I still getting molecularly dissolved, or have I been upgraded to valuable witness?" "You will assist our investigation," the prince declared. "If your assistance proves useful, the High Council may commute your sentence to mere neural reconfiguration." "That doesn't sound much better," Maya muttered. "Look, I want to help, really, but I'm going to need more information. What exactly is this royal genetic beacon thing anyway?" The prince seemed to hesitate, his scales cycling through several patterns before settling on a deep, pulsing blue. The beacon contains encoded Zenthorian royal DNA sequences. It is a mating call. Maya blinked. I'm sorry, did you just say I intercepted alien royal sexting? The prince's translator apparently struggled with the term, as his faceted eyes reconfigured several times before he responded. It is not sexting. It is a sophisticated genetic compatibility broadcast that royal houses use to identify potential mates from distant systems. The practice ensures genetic diversity while maintaining royal lineages. So basically, Maya said slowly, I hijacked alien royal Tinder. The sub-commander made a sound like breaking crystal, which Maya realized might be the Zenthorian, equivalent of an offended gasp. The prince, however, showed what might have been the alien equivalent of amusement, his head crest filaments waving in gentle undulation. A crude but not entirely inaccurate analogy, he conceded. What concerns us is that your world should not have the technology to detect our beacon, much less interfere with it. This suggests a third party with advanced technology has taken interest in your planet. Maya considered this. And that's bad because, the prince said gravely, the only species with both the motivation and capability to do this are the Vrek Dominion, our ancient enemies who consider pre-spaceflight worlds like yours to be strategic resource caches to be harvested. Harvested, Maya repeated. That doesn't sound good. It is not, the prince confirmed. The Vrek extract all useful elements from a planet, including organic compounds. Your world would be reduced to a barren rock. Okay, Maya took a deep breath. I'm officially upgrading my cooperation status from reluctant to enthusiastic. What do you need me to do? The prince's scales rippled with what might have been approval. You will help us locate the Vrek technology on your world. Your knowledge of your planet's systems and your demonstrated ability to bypass security protocols will be useful. I can do that, Maya nodded. But I'll need access to my equipment, or at least the alien equivalent. You will be provided with a Zenthorian data interface, the prince said. Sub-Commander Vrax will escort you to the technology chamber. As Maya followed the stiff-postured sub-commander, she glanced back at the prince, whose multifaceted eyes seemed to be tracking her movement. For an alien royal who had just threatened her with molecular dissolution, he was actually kind of impressive. Great, she muttered to herself. Kidnapped by aliens, facing planetary destruction, and I think I might be developing a crush on a four-armed lizard prince. This day just keeps getting better. The Zenthorian technology chamber was unlike any computer lab Maya had ever seen. Instead of keyboards and screens, the room contained what looked like pools of liquid light, pulsing with colors that shifted and changed as the Zenthorian technicians moved their forehands through them. The walls themselves seemed alive, with data streams flowing like luminescent rivers across organic-looking surfaces. This is your workstation, Sub-Commander Vrax indicated a smaller pool of light. It has been calibrated for your primitive neurological patterns and limited appendages. Thanks for the vote of confidence, Maya said dryly. How exactly am I supposed to interface with a puddle? The sub-commander's scales flickered with what Maya was beginning to recognize as impatience. Place your hands in the information medium. The nanoneural interfaces will establish connection with your central nervous system. That sounds invasive. Maya hesitated. Will it hurt? Pain is inefficient, Vrax stated flatly. The connection process may cause temporary sensory disorientation as your primitive neural pathways adapt to superior Zenthorian information density. You guys really need to work on your bedside manner, Maya muttered, but cautiously extended her hands toward the glowing pool. As her fingers broke the surface, which felt more like a warm gel than liquid, a cascade of sensations flooded her consciousness. Colors she had no names for, sounds beyond human hearing range, and patterns that existed in dimensions she couldn't comprehend. For a moment, it was overwhelming, like trying to drink from a fire hose of pure information. Then, remarkably, her brain began to adapt. The chaos resolved into structures she could understand, not exactly like computer code, but similar enough that her hacker instincts could navigate it. Maya felt herself grinning as she began to explore the Zenthorian information network. "This is amazing," she breathed, her hands moving through the light gel with increasing confidence. "It's like the entire system is organic. The data doesn't just flow, it evolves." "Your adaptation rate is unexpected," Vrek observed, her tone shifting to a new harmonic pattern Maya hadn't heard before. "Most non-Zenthorian species require extensive neural conditioning to access even basic system functions." Maya was only half listening, her consciousness expanding through the Zenthorian network. She could feel the ship around her, not just the data systems but the living components that made up its structure. The eternal convergence was as much a biological entity as a technological one, a symphony of engineered life and quantum computing working in perfect harmony. "I need access to your scan data of Earth," Maya said, her eyes half closed as she navigated the information currents. "And anything you have on these Vrek guys and their technology signatures." Vrax made a gesture, and new data streams flowed into Maya's awareness. Detailed scans of Earth's surface, atmospheric composition, electromagnetic spectrum analyses, and deep geological surveys. Alongside this came information about the Vrek Dominion, their technology, biology, and warfare tactics. "Holy crap," Maya whispered as she absorbed the information. "You guys have been watching us for a while, haven't you?" "Standard protocol for pre-contact species monitoring," Vrax replied. "Your civilization has been designated Category 7B. Technologically advancing but socially unstable. High probability of self-extinction before achieving sustainable space presence." "Harsh, but fair," Maya admitted, continuing to sift through the data. As she integrated the Vrek technology signatures with Earth scan data, patterns began to emerge. "Wait, I think I'm finding something." She pulled the relevant data streams together, comparing frequency patterns and energy signatures. There, scattered across the planet but concentrated in certain regions, were energy emissions that matched Vrek technology profiles but had been disguised to blend with Earth's natural electromagnetic noise. "Look at this," Maya directed the information to a larger display pool where Vrax could see it. "They're hiding in plain sight, masking their tech signatures as natural phenomena or human communications. Clever." Vrax's scales shifted to a deep indigo, alarm, Maya guessed. "This indicates a much larger Vrek presence than we anticipated. I must inform the Prince immediately." As the sub-commander hurried away, Maya continued exploring the data. The Vrek infiltration was extensive, with technology nodes positioned at strategic locations around the planet. Major fault lines, key military installations, and critical infrastructure points. It looked like preparation for something big. "What are you planning?" she murmured, diving deeper into the analysis. When she finally found the answer, her blood ran cold. The pattern was unmistakable. The Vrek weren't just monitoring Earth. They were preparing to trigger a cascading planetary collapse using Earth's own geological instabilities. "They're going to make it look like a natural disaster," she realized. "No alien invasion fleet, no warfare that might attract Zenthorian attention. Just a tragic case of a pre-spaceflight civilization that suffered a series of catastrophic natural disasters." Prince Xallax entered the technology chamber with Vrax and several royal advisors trailing behind him. His scales were pulsing with rapid color changes that suggested intense agitation. "Show me what you found," he commanded, moving to Maya's workstation. Maya pulled her hands from the information medium, momentarily disoriented as her consciousness snapped back to the confines of her physical body. "They're setting up a planetary demolition system," she explained, still dizzy from the neural disconnection, "using our own fault lines and tectonic weaknesses against us. One trigger event will set off a chain reaction. Earthquakes, volcanic eruptions, tsunami cascades." The prince studied the data with alarming intensity. "The strategy is consistent with Vrek methodology, clean, efficient, and deniable under Galactic Accord restrictions. We have to stop them," Maya said. "How much time do we have?" Based on these activation sequences, the prince's 4 hands moved through the data with practiced precision. "The trigger event is scheduled to begin in approximately 72 of your Earth hours." 3 days, Maya translated. Great. No pressure or anything. The Zenthorian Imperial fleet could neutralize the Vrek technology, Chief Advisor Zorn suggested, his elderly scales barely shifting colors as he spoke. A precision strike on each installation? Impossible. The prince cut him off. The Galactic Accord prohibits visible intervention on pre-contact worlds. Any obvious Zenthorian military action would trigger immediate diplomatic consequences. Not to mention, Maya added, that blasting things from orbit might set off the very chain reaction we're trying to prevent. The prince's faceted eyes turned to Maya, seeming to study her with new interest. You understand the situation correctly. We require a solution that neutralizes the Vrek technology without revealing either their presence or ours to your general population. A stealth operation? Maya nodded. We need to hack their system and disable it from within. Hack, the prince repeated, the translation seeming awkward in his harmonious voice. This is your specialty, is it not? Maya couldn't help smiling. It is indeed, your royal lizardness. But I'll need to get back to Earth and access one of the Vrek control nodes directly. Their systems won't be connected to human networks, they'd be isolated and secure. Out of the question, Sub-Commander Vrax objected immediately. Allowing the human access to Vrek technology presents an unacceptable security risk. Do you have a better idea? Maya challenged. Because from what I can see, you guys can't intervene directly without breaking your precious galactic accord. And I'm the only one who knows Earth systems well enough to navigate them without setting off alarms. A tense silence filled the EO chamber, broken only by the soft pulsing of the living data streams. Finally, the prince spoke. I will accompany the human to the surface, he declared. Together, we will neutralize the primary Vrek control node. The announcement sent a shockwave through the assembled Zenthorians. Their scales rippled in chaotic patterns, and their harmonic speech overlapped in what sounded to Maya like alien panic. Your luminescence, Chief Advisor Zorn's voice cut through the cacophony. The royal protocols explicitly forbid. The protocols also demand that we protect developing worlds from unauthorized harvesting, the prince countered. And as first heir, I invoke the right of royal prerogative. Maya wasn't sure what that meant, but from the way the other Zenthorians immediately fell silent, it was clearly a big deal. The prince turned to her, his scales now a steady, determined blue. Prepare yourself, Maya Chen of Earth, we depart in 6 hours. As the prince strode out of the chamber, Maya found herself once again wondering how she'd gone from hacking government servers in her apartment to planning a covert planetary rescue mission with an alien royal. Just another day in the life, she murmured to herself, and plunged her hands back into the information medium to begin planning their mission. The Zenthorian preparation protocols were exhaustive. Maya had been scanned, measured, and analyzed by more alien medical devices than she could count. She'd been fitted with what they called an environmental adaptation field generator, a small scale-like device that adhered to the base of her neck and would apparently help her survive if exposed to alien atmospheres or energy fields. Now she stood in what she'd mentally labeled the alien locker room, watching Prince Xallax being fitted with his own specialized equipment. The prince's royal attire had been replaced with a form-fitting combat suit that amplified his already impressive physique. The material shifted colors subtly, adapting to its surroundings. That's some serious tech, Maya commented, trying not to stare too obviously at how the suit accentuated his powerful four-armed frame. Adaptive camouflage? The combat skin responds to both environmental conditions and neural commands, the prince explained as technicians attached various devices to the suit's surface. It can render me effectively invisible to most detection systems, including your primitive human visual spectrum. Neat trick, Maya nodded. So what's my super spy outfit? Please tell me I get something cooler than this jumpsuit. She plucked at the plain gray garment they'd given her to replace her jeans and t-shirt. The prince made a gesture that might have been the Zenthorian equivalent of a shrug. Your body lacks the neural sensitivity to control advanced combat skin. The garment you wear contains basic protective elements and identification maskers, but nothing that would appear unusual to other humans. Of course, Maya sighed. The alien gets the invisible supersuit and the human gets space pajamas. Seems fair. The prince's head tilted slightly, his faceted eyes reconfiguring. Your use of verbal irony continues to be instructive. Zenthorians do not typically employ such communication patterns. You mean you don't have sarcasm? Maya grinned. That explains so much about Sub-Commander Vrax's sparkling personality. The Sub-Commander is considered quite expressive by Zenthorian standards, the prince said, completing his equipment check. Her scale language proficiency is ranked in the 98th percentile. Wait, your scales aren't just for show? Maya asked, genuinely curious. They're actually communicating something? Of course. The prince seemed surprised by her question. The chromatic shifts and pattern configurations constitute our primary emotional language. The verbal harmonics you hear are merely supplementary. Precision communication. Maya studied the subtle ripples of color moving across the prince's exposed facial scales. So right now, what are your scales saying? The prince's color suddenly stilled, settling into a uniform deep blue. That is, not relevant to our mission parameters. Oh my God, Maya laughed. You're embarrassed. I didn't even know aliens could get embarrassed. I am experiencing no such emotional state, the prince insisted, though a flicker of violet rippled across his facial scales, contradicting his words. We must focus on mission preparation. Maya decided to let him off the hook. Fine, so what's the plan? How do we get to Earth without being noticed, and where exactly are we going? The prince activated a holographic display between them, showing Earth with several locations highlighted. We will use a stealth transport pod to reach the surface, near this location. The display zoomed in on a mountainous region that Maya recognized as the Sierra Nevada range in California. Our analysis indicates the primary wreck control node is located beneath this facility. Maya peered at the image. That's the National Quantum Research Laboratory. I used to work there before. Well, before they decided my research methods were too unconventional. This is fortuitous, the prince noted. Your familiarity with the facility will be advantageous. Yeah, about that, Maya grimaced. They kind of have my biometrics on a security blacklist. Getting in won't be as simple as walking through the front door. We will not use the front door, the prince said. Zenthorian infiltration techniques do not rely on authorized access points. Of course they don't, Maya smirked. So, we sneak in, find the alien doomsday device hiding under a top-secret government lab, and somehow disable it without getting caught by either human security or angry wreck aliens. What could possibly go wrong? The prince's head crest filaments rippled in what Maya was beginning to recognize as confusion. Many things could go wrong. The mission has a calculated success probability of only 63%. That was rhetorical, Your Highness, Maya explained. It's this human thing called gallows humor. We joke about dire situations to alleviate stress. Fascinating, the prince said, his scales shifting to a contemplative green-blue. Zenthorians manage stress through respiratory regulation and scale pattern harmonization. Well, I left my scale pattern harmonizer in my other pants, Maya quipped. So I'll stick with inappropriate humor if that's okay with you. For a moment, Maya thought she detected a ripple of color that might have been amusement cross the prince's facial scales. Before she could be sure, a chime sounded throughout the chamber. Transport preparation complete, announced a disembodied, harmonic voice. Stealth pod ready for deployment. The prince fixed Maya with his multifaceted gaze. Are you prepared for this mission, Maya Chen? Once we begin, the safety of your world will depend on our success. Maya took a deep breath. No pressure or anything, but yeah, I'm ready. Let's go save Earth from being alien strip-mined. As they headed toward the launch bay, Maya couldn't help adding, by the way, this would make an awesome resume addition, if we survive and if anyone would believe me. The Zenthorian stealth pod looked nothing like the sleek spaceships of human science fiction. Instead, it resembled a large iridescent seed pod, organic curves without visible thrusters or windows. Its surface rippled slightly like the scales of its creators. This is disturbing on several levels, Maya commented as the pod opened like a blooming flower to reveal a cushioned interior. Am I about to get swallowed by a space plant? The biomimetic hull provides optimal atmospheric entry characteristics and complete sensor invisibility, the prince explained, gesturing for her to enter. The interior neural gel will protect you during high-G maneuvers. Neural gel? Maya peered dubiously at what looked like seats made of clear jelly. That doesn't sound ominous at all. Despite her reservations, Maya climbed into the pod and cautiously settled into one of the gel seats. It yielded beneath her weight, then seemed to cradle her body with surprising comfort. The prince entered behind her, his larger form requiring careful maneuvering in the confined space. The pod closed around them, sealing with a soft organic sound. "This is cozy," Maya observed as the prince settled into the pilot's position, his forearms connecting with interface points in the neural gel. "Do you take all your human abductees on romantic pod rides? Or am I special?" The prince's scales flickered briefly. "This is not a romantic—" He paused. "Ah, more of your gallows humor." "You're catching on," Maya grinned. "So how does this thing— Whoa!" Her question was cut short as the pod suddenly accelerated with crushing force. The neural gel instantly compensated, enveloping her more completely and distributing the G-forces across her body. Through the momentary discomfort, Maya was aware of movement, rapid, stomach-churning movement as the pod launched from the Zenthorian ship and plummeted toward Earth. "A little warning next time?" she gasped when she could speak again. "Apologies," the prince said, his forearms moving through the neural gel in complex patterns. Rapid deployment was necessary to minimize detection risk. The pod's hull became partially transparent, giving Maya a breathtaking view of Earth growing larger beneath them. The curve of the planet, the swirl of cloud patterns, the vast blue of oceans. It was both familiar and utterly alien from this perspective. "Wow," she breathed. "I never thought I'd see Earth from space." "Your world has a certain primitive beauty," the prince acknowledged, his scales shifting to a contemplative blue-green. "The Biosphere Diversity Index is quite impressive for a Category 7B civilization." "Thanks, I think," Maya said, still captivated by the view. "We do try to keep it nice when we're not actively destroying it." The pod continued its descent, the hull heating to a bright orange as they hit the atmosphere. Despite the external inferno, the interior remained at a comfortable temperature. The neural gel adjusted constantly, protecting Maya from what should have been lethal G-forces as the pod maneuvered at impossible speeds. "We will land approximately 3 kilometers from the target facility," the prince informed her as North America came into view below them. "The pod's chameleon protocols will render it undetectable until our return." "And how exactly are we getting into the facility?" Maya asked. "It's not like we can just walk up to the security gate." "I will employ Zenthorian phase-shifting technology to bypass physical barriers," the prince explained. "You will guide us to the most likely location of the Vrek control node." "Phase-shifting?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "You mean like walking through walls? That's actually possible?" "A simplification, but essentially correct," the prince said as the pod hurtled toward the Sierra Nevada mountains. "The technology temporarily adjusts the quantum state of matter, allowing interpenetration of atomic structures without collision." "That's incredibly cool," Maya admitted. "So you could have just phased into my apartment instead of blowing up my door?" The prince's scales rippled with what might have been embarrassment. The explosive entry was standard protocol for first contact with potentially hostile subjects. "I'm 5'4" and I was eating ramen in my pajamas," Maya pointed out. "Real threatening." Before the prince could respond, the pod decelerated sharply, causing Maya's stomach to lurch despite the neural gel's compensation. They were skimming just above the tree line now, the mountainous landscape rushing past at terrifying speed. With a final stomach-turning maneuver, the pod settled into a small clearing, coming to rest with unexpected gentleness. "We have arrived," the prince announced unnecessarily as the pod opened like an unfolding flower. The cool mountain air rushed in, carrying the scent of pine and soil, smells that had never seemed